Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and his pure, immaculate Ahlul Bayt. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And inshallah, during the next 10 nights, I'll be sharing a few ideas with you. Yes. And on the theme of spiritual wayfaring, and in relation to Imam Hussein's movement, inshallah. But I'll start with one tradition, and then we'll see how things progress from there. The Holy Messenger was asked by one of his disciples, Abu Dhar, Ya Rasulallah, kam min nabiyyun, how many prophets are there? Very simple question. And the Holy Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam replied, Mi'atu alfin wa arba'atun wa ishruna alfa nabi. 124,000 prophets. Now, for some people,
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For some people, when they receive the answer, 124,000 prophets, that's it. They say thank you, and then they ask another question. But for some people, when they get the answer 124,000, it's of more relevance. It's numbers now. Some people are looking for the esoteric dimensions of the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. They're looking for deeper meanings, inner meanings. They want the codes to be unraveled. They want more. You've all heard of Pythagoras. Oh, those of you, if you recall Pythagoras' theory or theorem in relation to the triangle, he had many theories in relation to numbers in general. He was most probably one of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to Ayatollah Hassan Zada Omari. Great men such as Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, these were all prophets. In one tradition, which Ayatollah Hassan Zada Omari has confirmed, one of the companions of the Holy Prophet went to Greece, and then on returning to Mecca or Medina, the Holy Prophet asked, okay, what did you see there? And he said that there were crowds of people, there were a lot of gatherings, and they would always speak about someone called Aristoteles. May Allah curse him, he said then. The disciple of the Holy Messenger. And then the Holy Messenger said, no, woe upon you, Kana min al-anbiya, in relation to Aristotle. And there are many others too. Pythagoras, or in Arabic, Pythagoras, yes, all those theories he had, it was backed by revelation. Now today, when the books that have been attributed to Plato, Aristotle and others, when it speaks of different gods, the god of this and the god of that, this has been played around with during the years. And that's how it's come to be after 2,000 years of playing around with the original text. But the original doesn't exist today. But by no means do we accept that they were polytheists. Although there are some differing opinions amongst the scholars, but Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh was firm in his belief. So it's about numbers now. When they say 124,000 prophets, there's those who want to suffice with the superficial aspect of Islam, which is the first and primary aspect. It's most essential. The prima facie meaning of the verses and the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. They suffice with that and they don't want to go deeper. And that's okay. There are differing levels of understanding, deliberation and intellect amongst the Ummah. We can't expect everyone to be deeply investigative into all traditions or verses of the Holy Quran. But some people, when they see 124,000, they want more now. And what does this mean? This is the code to something. But what? I'll come to it in a minute. In one tradition from the Holy Messenger again, he says, Inna ma'ashir al-anbiya, verily we, the prophets, umirna, we've been commanded that, an nukallim an-nas, to speak with the people, ala qadri uqulihim, on a par with their intellects. We've been commanded to speak to the common masses, and nas, on a par with their intellect. Otherwise, a dot, a nuqta would have been enough. What does that mean? They had to explain things, and they had to do it in a manner that it's on a par with the common masses' intellect. Otherwise, a dot would have sufficed. In one tradition, it said, al-ilmu nuqtatun. All of knowledge, it's a dot. But we, the common people, we require more than a dot. Some people don't. You've all heard that the Quran, the essence of the Quran, the truth of it, it's all in Surah Al-Hamd. And then the tradition continues. Sorry. All of the truth of Surah Al-Hamd, it's in the first verse. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Then the tradition continues. The truth of Bismillah, it's all in the ba, the letter B, or ba. And then the truth of ba is in the dot under it. In relation to why does the 9th surah, the 9th chapter of the Holy Quran, why doesn't it start with Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim? And the theologians have given respectable answers, but the problem is it doesn't matter, because it starts with bara'atan min Allah. It's all in the ba. Every surah starts with the ba. Al-ilmu nuqtatun. It's all in the dot under the ba. That should suffice. But we being the common lay people, we being an-nas, no. The prophets came and nukallim an-nas. They had to speak more with us. Ala qadri uqulihim, on a par with their intellects. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, so one side of the spectrum is the dot, which is everything. The Holy Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, let's suppose that he was to remain alive until the day of resurrection. He passed away at 63 years of age. Let's say he was to live on until the day of resurrection. Every day he would have had something to say. Every day. Don't get me wrong, the Quran ended as it should have ended. And Allah's knowledge from pre-eternity to post-eternity, it's all in the Quran. Our access to that knowledge is there for everyone. The potential is there. However, the Holy Prophet could have gone with the tafsir and the commentary to the very end, because there is no end to Allah's knowledge. It would always go. So, the Holy Prophets would speak on a par with the intellect of the people. In chapter 14, verse 4, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ رَسُولٍ, we didn't send any messenger, إِلَّا, except that, بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ, except that it be in the language of the people that's sending. It has to be in the language of the people. لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ, so that they explain to them. Now this بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ, in the language of the people that they were sent to, that some people have given a commentary saying that it's on a par with the intellects of those people. Although that doesn't mean, or we don't negate that it has to be in the language of the people that the Prophet has been sent to, but also you have to speak in the language of the intellect that they can relate with you. And this today, in countries like England, where people come here from, let's say, the East and settle down, there are lessons to be learned from this verse when you want to speak about conveying religion to the generations that were brought up, born and bred here. And then it says to explain to them, لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ. This lahum, for them, this lam, the preposition, lam, the irfan of the Quran is hidden in the prepositions. Otherwise the nouns and the verbs, that's quite simple to translate and understand. But when it comes to prepositions, the Arabic language is very particular about it. There are about 20 odd prepositions, each of them having over 20 different meanings. This lam, inshallah, we'll speak about this preposition during the next 10 nights in different places of the Quran, but it's the lam of unity, where they're explaining something so that it acquires unity with the audience they're addressing. That's what we want in relation to religion. We have to incorporate it within ourselves. It's not an academic exercise. It's something that has to be ingrained within. This lam is important, the lam of unity. We'll come to it many times, inshallah. But there has to be a minimum. When the prophets preach, when the prophets speak, yes, they do it on a par with the intellects of the people, the common masses, and there has to be a minimum that they present. And that minimum has to be accessible to all. The Quran, the prima facie value, the face value, the superficial understanding of it, that is the minimum that we have. But do we confine Islam to a minimum? Do you want to understand the traditions on a par with the understanding of the minimum? Do you want to understand revelation, which is Allah's, the essence of it, is Allah's knowledge from pre-eternity to post-eternity, minimally? Do you want to limit Islam like that? Or do you want to go deeper into it? You want more than the minimum. But the minimum is there. We have to stick to that and then grow and acquire more. Now, we know that the verses of the Holy Quran have a lot of inner dimensions. They're multi-layered. Many traditions of the Ahlul Bayt speak about this. One of them reads, Inna lil-Qur'ani dhahran wa batna. With the Qur'an, there's an outer dimension and an inner dimension. There's an outer aspect and an inner aspect. وَلِبَطْنِهِ بَطْنًا. And with the inner aspect, there's another inner aspect to that inner aspect. إِلَى سَبْعَةِ أَبْطُنٍ. And keep on going 7 times over. So that inner aspect, there's an inner aspect to that. And that inner aspect, there's an inner aspect to that. Goes 7 times. In some traditions it says 700 times with the inner aspect. Because the outer dimension is only one. That's the prima facie meaning of the verse. You can't have 2 or 3 of those. It's what the common layperson understands from it. And there with tafsir, we acquire knowledge of it. That's essential. It's the beginning, it's necessary, but it's the minimum. And with that, yes, you can go to heaven, everything is open to you. But the point is, it's a pity to confine religion to the minimum. To confine Islam to that minimal understanding. Even if it takes you to heaven. Heaven has degrees. Some people, they may suffice with the minimum pleasures of heaven. All they think is the huris, the palaces, the foods. And that's okay. And they'll be given that. But is that it? Is that how you understand Islam? Just a few rewards? Although it's eternal rewards in the hereafter. But is that our potential? Was all this for a few huris and palaces? Or was it something else also? It doesn't matter if all your life you strive for the huris and the palaces and that. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's good. But I'm saying when we want to speak about Islam, we have to understand there are differing degrees to it. Look at the verse I just mentioned. There's no end. It's eternal. It's infinite. Don't think a few huris and palaces, that's the be-all and end-all to Islam. It's much deeper than this. And inshallah we'll speak more about this depth. But it's important. We don't have to suffice with the minimum, even though it's primarily essential to acquire it, but then we want more. Are we instructed to want more? Well, of course. First of all, with the tradition I mentioned before, but let's go to 2 verses in the Holy Quran, chapter 29, verse 43. وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ. These are examples that we give to the nas, to the common lay person. And nas usually in the Quran is referring to the masses. These are examples that we give. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. But no one understands those examples except those who seek for knowledge. You see, we want to understand the intricacies of the Quran. It's not a simple superficial understanding, even though that's essential. But we want more. Here the Quran says you have to be amongst the alimun, to seek for it. In another verse, chapter 59, verse 21, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ, like the previous verse, these are examples. نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ, that we give to the people, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so that they deliberate over it. See, Allah wants us to deliberate more, and then even one step higher, because with deliberating you may or not qualify as one of the alimun. These are different stages here. He wants you to be, because if you are, it's one step ahead. You've gone one step deeper. How will it affect you? It will affect you, definitely. The deeper you go, the less you sin. Now that's a very open-ended statement. I'll explain it during the nights, inshallah. There are degrees to knowledge. It's a broad continuum, but it's necessary. Why is it necessary? The seeking the knowledge to go deeper and to understanding deeper examples of the Holy Quran, rather than just the superficial understanding. The Quran gives the code. This code exists in Du'a Kumail as a reminder every week, just in case you're lacking in this regard. Chapter 39, verse 9. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Are those who know equal to those who don't know? Are those who seek for knowledge equal to those who don't seek knowledge? Before it you said وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. They don't understand it except for the alimun. We need this to go deeper. Now, this depth that we require as spiritual scaffolding to our existence applies to the Holy Quran, and we've mentioned the tradition on its depths. It also applies to the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. The traditions of the Ahlul Bayt also are multi-layered, multi-dimensional, and it has depths. One was the tradition I started off with, the code 124,000. But even all traditions, if you just focus and deliberate, you can, various truths open up, especially with a pure heart. But primarily, seeking knowledge with a pure heart, with that seeking of knowledge, helps. Imam Hussein, alayhi salam, we're commemorating these very important days. And I'm embarrassed that I have to speak about Imam Hussein. I'm not someone who can really go to the depths of his words. But I just want to give one or two examples during the next few nights. The depths again. There's a famous statement he uttered to the enemy. And you've all heard of it. Where he said, فَقَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونُكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. Verily, your insides have been filled with haram. Now, that has a superficial understanding, and that superficial understanding is haq, and no one is negating that. It's about them eating, let's say, either haram meat or eating through earning a haram earning. Both these apply here, superficially. And if we want to grow, that's step one. And that's abiding by the Sharia. We want pure lives. To start off, let's not consume haram meat, and let's earn a halal living. And although it's superficial, it's essential, because this step one, without it, you won't proceed or progress to higher steps, closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But now let's go a bit deeper into this tradition. What does inside mean? This butun in relation to me and you. What does haram mean? What does being filled with haram mean? Now, this filled, this muli'at, I'll explain later. I don't want to focus on that tonight, because it's a very delicate term. It's in relation to the philosophical definition of death. But what does haram mean, and what does our insides mean here? Does our inside only mean the physical stomach, for example? Because we know it means that superficially, but does it have any other deeper meanings? Butun? And haram, is it only haram on a par with the Sharia? Or do we have things that are haram which the Sharia doesn't deem as haram, and they're not haram canonically, however, they pollute the soul? That's where the tariqah comes in. That path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll speak more about that. There are many things which aren't sins. There are many actions that aren't amongst the muharramat, but those actions pollute the soul. And that pollution and contamination, if it reaches a certain threshold, it'll lead you to commit those Sharia haram actions, if the pollution exceeds a threshold. So in a sense, those actions are even more important. We can't take them lightly. Jealousy within oneself, not expressed. It's not haram according to the Sharia. Holding grudges against people isn't haram according to the Sharia. Not forgiving people is not haram according to the Sharia. If your parents want you to study a subject and you say no, that's not haram according to the Sharia. Because in relation to parents, only those actions are haram, that actions that are expected according to the common layperson of your society where you're living. It's expected to cause harm or badness to the parents. It's expected, that action is expected to lead to their anger, their disappointment. That's haram. But if you want to study another subject and your parents say no, they want you to study something and you say no, that's not expected in the order of this society. It may be in another society. All these are okay. Well, not okay, but they're not haram according to the Sharia. But all these actions pollute the soul. And that's where the tariqah comes in. When the tariqah comes in, now things are different now. Obedience to one's parents, even if they're kafir, is of utmost importance in whatever they say. I don't want you to panic. No one can be 100%. But we'll give everyone to their own limit. Some people 10%, some people 20%, some people can survive doing this 30% of the times. It's important to understand the tariqah, it's a different realm. The tariqah is exactly like the Sharia. It's one reality. They're not two mutually exclusive realities. But it's more deeper now. So what does haram mean? What does the butun means? Imam Hussein alayhi salam is saying, he's saying that your insides have been filled with haram. Now to understand what haram means, we go to the Quran again. Chapter 2, verse 173. إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير. Allah has forbidden, has only forbidden in the realm of consuming carcasses sacrificed the Islamic way, carcasses, blood, and the flesh of pigs. And the verse continues. I just want to focus on these three for now. Well, that, on a superficial understanding, it's very straightforward. Right? We're not allowed to consume carcasses, or we can't consume blood. We can't consume the flesh of pigs. If we stick to that all our lives, it's very good. You've accomplished something important. Okay, it's the letter of the law, but it's step one, without which you can't go to step two. But we said that Islam has no limit, infinite number of steps. And therefore that's why it's a pity to confine Islam to step one. What does Mayta mean, the carcass? Does it have any esoteric meanings? Here, yes, the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt open some codes into relation to what the carcass, the corpse is. The corpse is usually referred to in humans, but in animals, you see carcass. The traditions speak of the dunya as a jifa, which means a corpse, something dead. The dunya is dead. We have many traditions on this. Now it can't mean this physical dunya, because this physical dunya is a creation of Allah. It's beautiful, it's good, it's for living. This dunya is in relation to the worldly life. And those who are drowned in it, they are dead. In chapter 29, verse 64, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. This worldly life, not the world per se, it's creation. All is good. Whatever is good. But the worldly life is just distraction and play. And then the verse continues, وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. But the abode of the hereafter, that is the true life. That is indeed the true life. This worldly life is dead. The realm of the hereafter, it's alive. But this dunya which is dead, it's nothing outside us, what surrounds us. It's all within. Lah is from within. La'ib is from within. It all depends on your look on the physical world. How is it? Although this we'll speak about later in more detail, but very briefly here, when you're drowned in the worldly life, you're dead. Like a carcass. But whilst in this world, the code in this verse is telling you have access to the hereafter. Whilst living in this world, you have access to the hereafter. Mutu qabla an tamutu. Die before you die. Die a spiritual death before you die a physical death. This dying a spiritual death means transcending to a higher realm whilst you're living in this world. Now we're getting closer to some deeper objectives that Islam has for us. أَعِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ فَهُوَ يَرَى. Does one have knowledge of the unseen to qualify as a seer? Die before you die. What's all this about? It's all about seeing the metaphysical whilst living in this world. Otherwise you won't qualify as a seer. عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ فَهُوَ يَرَى. your seeing will just be like the seeing of animals. They can also see, a physical seeing. But our objective is much higher. We need to see. It's only then we start having the fruits of religion. All one's life, if we never see, we've just lived a life of animals. And don't worry, you may even be given heaven too, but it's going to be a heavenly stable with those recreational, materialistic pleasures. But we want to see من كان في هذه أعمى فهو في الآخرة أعمى. Those who are blind in this world, not a physical blindness, they never saw. They never saw beyond. They're going to be blind in the hereafter. It's about seeing. We need to start seeing. Here, Mete, the carcass, is haram for you. Let's go a bit deeper with the help of the traditions, the esoteric dimension being the worldly life is haram for you. Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, فَقَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونُكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. Your insides have been filled with haram. It's not only a physical food or that consumption of an unhalal earning. Some people do all the wajibat, but they're still lacking spiritually. Some people refrain from all the canonical sins, all the muharramat, but they still lack in relation to ethics and deeper. Here it's saying it's haram for you to consume the worldly life, but this haram now, esoterically, is the haram of the tariqah. It's not a sharia haram anymore. Now, I don't really want to speak about the worldly life because one, I don't practice it as I should. I don't want to be a hypocrite. But in the West, we have to stop fooling ourselves with the worldly life, and we have to start making an effort. So until, the ends of your life, some people, that deep remorse and regret will set in, and why did I do this? Why did I do that? Don't take it lightly. This is one of the tariqah sins, drowning oneself in the worldly life. It contaminates the soul, it pollutes the soul, but it's not a haram according to the Sharia, but it pollutes the soul. Maybe after 30 or 40 years of you doing no muharramat, but after 30 or 40 years of being drowned in the worldly life, it reaches a threshold, then everything goes wrong. People like Shimr, La'natullah alayh, he was in the battalion of Amirul Mu'mineen in the Battle of Siffin. He was defending Amirul Mu'mineen. Excuse this statement, but me and you were nothing compared to Shimr when he was in the days of Siffin. A true defender of Walaya. He would give his life for Amirul Mu'mineen. He would do Salatul Layl every night. But the problem was the dunya. You may do all the wajibat, refrain from all the muharramat, but in the tariqah you're failing considerably. When will it disclose itself after 30, 40, 50 years of pollution, constant pollution? Then suddenly everything goes wrong. You suddenly speak against Velayah. This has practical lessons today even. You suddenly speak against Velayah. You go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. people who start off very religiously at 20 or 30 years of age, it's possible if they don't be careful at 50, 60, 70, 80 years of age, everything can fall. And here, Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, you filled your insides with haram. This is one of them. The verse saying, إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ. It's forbidden for you al-mayta. But this is esoterically now, not only the superficial understanding. وَالدَّمَا, and blood has been forbidden for you to consume. Esoterically, going deeper into the verses, according to the logic of the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, blood is on a par with the biological and animalistic desires and whims that we have. Whenever there's mention of blood, you see that it's on a par with shahwa, the animalistic ills and vices. This is also haram for you. Now, shahwa, not all forms of shahwa are haram. Islam has come and defined and set the boundaries for shahwa and has offered us a minimum. That this animalistic trait has to be controlled. And this is the minimum. There are many instances of shahwa which is on a par with the sharia, but it's not on a par with the tariqah. And one has to be careful there. It's possible that someone can be so drowned in shahwa, even though they abide by the letter of the law, but they're drowned in shahwa. You'd be drowned in shahwa. The only problem is that you don't recall Allah when you're drowned in shahwa. And if this becomes ingrained, you'll forget Allah over time, even though you abide by the letter of the law. So this is another instance of haram that they filled their insides with. وَاللَّحْمَ الْخِنْزِيرِ, the flesh of the pig. That's associated not with esoterically, according to the logic of many traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. Here, okay, the superficial understanding we all accept, but it speaks of various traits, spiritual vices of the pig, that we have to be careful on the path to Allah, on the tariqah to refrain from. One is greed. These aren't now instincts like the shahwa. These aren't animalistic. These are spiritual, abstract ills. One is greed that the pig has. And the other is a lack of religious zeal, ghayrah. That's also forbidden, these traits of the pig. Although I'll speak about animals maybe in 4 or 5 nights' time. There's a lot of philosophy behind animals. We have to understand why certain animals have been made haram to consume. Okay, you want to say that the pig has this bacteria, and a microbiologist has found this out, and so what? It has this physical side effect. Is that it? Is that the main reason Allah forbade eating the meat of pigs? Or is there some other more important reason? This is important, we have to cover it. Having pets. What's Islam's stance on having pets and why? Acquiring an affinity towards animals, especially if it's inside the house. What are the repercussions, if any? Islam has a protocol for everything. But there's a minimum too. And the Sharia delineates the minimum. But if we suffice with that, it's a pity. difficult to grow with the minimum. Okay. So, going back to the first tradition I mentioned, the Holy Messenger replied, 124,000. Kamin Nabiyun, Abu Dhar asked, how many prophets are there? He said 124,000. Traditions, including this one, it's multi-layered. There's many dimensions to it. There's all divine meaning behind it. The Holy Messenger, the Imams, they would never speak out of their own desire. The words that they say are multi-layered, they're multi-dimensional. Don't suffice with the minimum. It's a pity. How many prophets are there? He said 124,000. For many people, they'll stop there. Thank you very much. My next question is this. For some people, they say, no, let's go a bit more deeper. There's a reason he said 124,000. There's a wisdom behind it. There's depth behind it. For goodness sake, this is the Holy Messenger saying it. It's not like me and you. Let's just wait a little. Let's just go deeper a little. Are there any codes? In chapter 53, verses 2 to 4, مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى. Your companion, referring to the Holy Messenger, has neither gone astray, nor has he erred. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. He doesn't speak out of his own desires. Abada. No way. In huwa illa wahyun yuha. It's but revelation that's been revealed. He doesn't speak out of his own desire. Superficially can mean, because the word your companion, referring to the Holy Messenger, superficially means the Quran that he's speaking towards you. It's not out of his own desires. Imam Tabatawi says this can be outside tafsir, can be extended a bit, and says that he doesn't speak in absolute terms out of his own desires. Things change now. Be it the Quran or outside the Quran. He never says anything outside. He never says anything from his own desires. Sorry if I made a mistake there. He never says anything, be it from the Quran or outside, out of his own desires. It's all revelation. Now, revelation, there are two types. I'll speak more about this. One is the legislative revelation, which the product was the Holy Quran. And legislative revelation, like legislative prophethood, ended with our Holy Messenger. But non-legislative prophethood, according to Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amuli, Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, the late Allama Tabatabai, the non-legislative, where we have access to the metaphysical and we acquire divine data and we see the angels and we speak, that's open to everyone until the day of resurrection, male or female. We'll speak more about that later. These are just terms. We'll slowly, I want to slowly go through all these terms with time. But the point is that he doesn't speak out of his own desires. And even more than that, according to explicit verses of the Quran, and I'll start with this theme tomorrow, he never hears, speaks, sees, he never talks, he never acts out of his own desires. There's someone else seeing, talking, acting. And this is the station of قرب فرائض. Proximity by wujub. But this wujub isn't a canonical wujub. This is the station that the Holy Messenger had. And inshallah we'll continue with this and then finish inshallah tomorrow. Sorry. Right, yes. Oh, I thought I had until 10 past 10. Sorry about that. So inshallah, I had words of musibah to read, but I think if we'll finish and we have the next speaker, inshallah, we'll have words of musibah from tomorrow, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi.